Abdikadir now is able to speak to us better. Ayub, you were saying something.
Good morning, Sam, and thank you. We are live from the Uhuru Gardens, where 60 years after independence, today Kenyans again are gathered here in anticipation of an address to the problems that are bedeviling their country. Some of them who are here might not have been there when the country gained independence, but they are here to hear from the leadership and the address that will be given by President William Ruto. As early as 5 a.m., the gates here were open and Kenyans were seated in anticipation and patiently so of their leaders today in wanting to hear about how the challenges, be it political, economical and social, that still faces the country after independence 60 years later can be addressed. And we managed to speak to some of them. They were upbeat, they were happy, and they were concerned, and to some degree again, about how the country at the moment is governed, how it has been governed under the previous administration since 1963. And this year's Jamhuri Day celebrations here at the Uhuru Gardens are themed around the Kenyan youth, the creative economy, and sports. These are three areas that the current administration under President William Ruto, and who has been passionately speaking about these three areas, appears to be the theme that will drive today's celebrations here at the Uhuru Gardens. We expect the seating capacity to be a maximum of 30,000 according to the communication that was issued by the Principal Secretary at the Ministry of Interior and National Administration, Dr. Raymond Omolo, who was here for the week-long preparations in anticipation of today's successful event and the smooth preparation process that the government had embarked on, and an exercise that will actually also be taking place also across the devolved units in the 47 counties. Now back to the thematic area of the Kenyan youth, the creative economy and sports. As early as yesterday, when the head of state signed into law the National Government Constituencies Development Fund Bill, now an act, he talked about how this is going to be a job creation opportunity and platform for the Kenyan youth, now that some money will go into the establishment of ICT hubs, which he said will help in the creation of opportunities and employment for the young Kenyans, expressing his concern as well as the head of state about the country's youth bulge and how that can be addressed by his administration, saying that there are proper plans in place. Also in terms of the creative economy, how the young Kenyans can tap into that opportunities that the government is providing at the moment to create jobs and be job creators, and this to shift their attention away from what has been the tradition to depend on the white-collar jobs that the government has been providing, and a shrinking space for that matter. Then the focus now shifting to the creative economy, where young Kenyans can be able to create opportunities for themselves and make money out or earn a living out of using their creativity in terms of coming up with the ideas on the digital platforms that apparently appear to be driving the global world. Then the third aspect about sports is an area that the head of state also was clear about when he came into power in September last year. And you recall one of the major achievements in regards to that is that Kenya, Uganda and Tanzania will be co-hosting the 2027 Africa Cup of Nations in the East African region. The announcement, which was made in the Egyptian capital Cairo, is going to be one that will act as a springboard for President William Ruto's administration in focusing its attention on the sporting industry in Kenya. And just against the backdrop of the country's under-18 team that came the second in the just concluded Sekava under-18 that was held here in the country, and after the title was won by the Ugandans. This tells you how the investments, and there is goodwill at the moment from the administration in terms of focusing its adequate attention on sports. Therefore, the theming around the three thematic areas of the Kenyan youth, the creative economy, and now sports. However, here today, whatever is happening, Sam, and to our viewers who are watching us across the country and also the world, is that the three issues that were outlined by the embryonic administration in 1963 appear to be again the stark reality that has accompanied all previous administrations to where we are at the moment. The problem of sorting our education system, our healthcare system, political stability appears to be dotting again the previous administration, as was the case with the underpinning factor of the other previous administrations as well. This is what policymakers at the moment here in Kenya and also in the successive governments after independence have been grappling with. What's therefore required are answers, and Kenyans here today are anticipating answers to be provided to how these issues can be sorted out. A properly functioning healthcare system, an education system that provides a level playing field for all Kenyans to access adequate and therefore equitable education, where they can be at a proper place to access education, and therefore that providing an ample shot that is fair for them in life to progress. And also the question of political stability, all coming around after every electoral cycle, and this largely stemming out of the political establishment and the concerns that always accompany our electoral process. Beyond that, also some Kenyans here will today be witnessing the three heads of states and governments who will be here for the Jamhuri Day celebrations at Uhuru Gardens. The names have not been revealed yet, but we have seen the presence of presidents and heads of state who were in Nairobi yesterday and received by President William Ruto at State House in Nairobi. Among them is the Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko and the President of Lesotho, who was here as well at State House and received by President William Ruto. That tells you that we'll be expecting the other name to be revealed of the guest of honor who will be here today in the company of those two. That's if they will be here and to witness what will be a historic moment for Kenyans here at the Jamhuri, at the Uhuru Gardens, to mark 60 years since Kenya became a republic, and therefore a significant chapter in Kenya's history, and their presence here and in the company of President William Ruto. We expect the head of states in his speech to also touch on the question, now that the year is ending, of the economy and the cost of living, now that Kenyans will be going into the festive season concerned about the value of the shilling in their pocket, the shrinking or the squeezed household budget because of the economic situation, and the governments at the moment appear to be positioned that it's holding of reducing the cost of hunger prices in the country, saying that much has gone into the fertilizer subsidy program, of focusing on the production away from the consumption, it said, has had effect on the economy, saying that now the burden on the shoulders of Kenyans has been alleviated, and the focus now is on how to prop up the economy going into the new year in 2024. And the head of state therefore expected to address the economy, and that appears to be also the appreciation made by the government of the economic situation, as well as Kenyans who will be here, seated here today in anticipation of the soothing words and the appealing tone that they expect the government and the head of state to strike on how the economy can be addressed, what the festive season will look like, and going into the new year, how the economy will be, and them to feel the value of the shilling, to bring down the cost of basic commodities, and how that will spur up the economic progress of the country, one that President William Ruto says is now stable and the government is full control of the economy. Some therefore will be monitoring around what will be happening here, and the guests continue to streaming, will be of course watching closely who will be coming. And shortly in the next live link I'll be joined by my colleagues Chemutai Goen and Stephen Leto to give you an assessment of how the situation is here at the Uhuru Gardens for the Jamhuri Day celebrations. Back to you.
All right, thank you so much, Ayub Abdikadi. Very interesting commentary there, but also the very interesting pictures that we continue to see the arrival of some of the local talents, some of whom you've watched for a very long time on Citizen TV. And joining us also is Dr. Hassan Khanenje, Director, Horn International Institute for Strategic Studies. Good morning.
Good morning to you. How are you?
I'm all right.
And happy Jamhuri Day.
Happy Jamhuri Day to you.
Yes.
And we've been here talking about what you're celebrating, reflecting on the vision of our forefathers. If you had to look at the two dailies on the front page of the Daily Nation, you'll see dreams of our fathers rather. And at independence, Mzee Jomo Kenyatta, our founding father, had lofty dreams for the country, ones that would free its citizens from poverty, ignorance, hunger, and disease. But 60 years later, and with the fifth president just one year into office, it's a mixed bag for Kenya. Of course, extensive coverage of some of the details, including the progress that has been made in terms of education, health, the number of doctors, what has happened to the employment sector, the public sector, private sector, number of jobs created, and of course, the statistics show that in 1965, the data from KNBS was showing that 2 million jobs had been created. As of 2022, it was 19.3 million. Those that were actively employed in 1965 were 1.8 million. In 2022, 19.1 million. And of course, so much more that you find on the Daily Nation. Then on the Standard.